I'm sitting here looking at my father's obituary from 15 years ago, and I still feel nothing. No sadness, no regret, no wish that things had been different. Just relief that he's gone and can't hurt anyone anymore. I'm Robert, and I'm 82 years old. And I hated my father for 73 years, right up until the day he died. People think that's terrible. They think family is everything, that you should forgive and forget, that death somehow erases decades of damage. They're wrong. My father wasn't a drunk. He wasn't a drug addict. He never hit us, never sexually abused us, never did any of the obvious terrible things that people think justify hating a parent. What he did was worse in some ways. He was a cruel, calculating man who used his intelligence and authority to systematically destroy the confidence and joy of everyone around him. I was his favorite target. From the time I could talk, nothing I did was ever good enough. When I brought home A's on my report card, he'd ask why I didn't get A+. When I got A+, he'd ask why I didn't get perfect scores on the tests. When I got perfect scores, he'd say the tests must have been too easy. When I was 8 years old, I spent weeks making him a Father's Day card. I drew pictures, wrote a poem, used my best handwriting. I was so proud of it. When I gave it to him, he looked at it for exactly 3 seconds, pointed to a smudged letter, and said, "This is sloppy. If you're going to do something, do it right." Then he threw it in the trash. I never made him another card. He had this way of making you feel stupid for trying. When I was 12, I got excited about a science project I was working on. I started explaining it to him at dinner, and he listened with this expression of barely contained disgust. When I finished, he said, "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Who told you that nonsense?" It wasn't nonsense. I'd gotten the information from our science textbook, but he made me feel like an idiot for believing it. My mother enabled him. She'd make excuses. "Your father's just trying to help you be your best. He wants you to be strong. He had a hard childhood." I stopped believing her excuses when I was 15 and realized she was just as afraid of him as we were. My younger brother Tommy handled it by becoming invisible. He learned to stay quiet, keep his head down, never draw attention to himself. It worked for him, but it didn't work for me. I was too stubborn, too outspoken. The more he tried to crush my spirit, the more I fought back. The final break came when I was 19. I had gotten engaged to Linda, a wonderful woman who treated me with kindness and respect. My father hated her, not because Linda had done anything wrong, but because Linda made me happy, and my father couldn't stand to see me happy. The night before my wedding, my father called me into his study. I thought maybe finally he was going to say something kind, something fatherly. Instead, he told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life, that Linda was beneath our family, that I was too stupid to see I was ruining my future. Then he said the thing I'll never forget. "You've always been a disappointment, Robert. This marriage is just proof that you'll never amount to anything." I looked at this man who was supposed to love me, protect me, believe in me, and I realized he never would. So I made a decision that night. I was done. I got married the next day. My father walked me down the aisle because my mother begged me not to cause a scene, but that was the last time he touched me. After that wedding, I cut him out of my life completely. For the next 38 years, I refused to see him, speak to him, or acknowledge his existence. When my children asked about their grandfather, I told them he was a mean man who didn't deserve to be part of their lives. When he sent Christmas cards, I threw them away unopened. When he tried to call, I hung up. People thought I was being dramatic, holding on to grudges, punishing myself as much as him. My brother Tommy used to say, "He's our father, Margaret. You have to forgive him eventually." No, I didn't. And I never did. My mother died 12 years before my father did. At her funeral, he tried to approach me, tried to say something. I walked away. Even at my mother's graveside, I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of acknowledging him. When he got sick with cancer at 89, Tommy called to tell me. He said the doctors thought he had maybe 6 months, that maybe this would be a chance for reconciliation. I told Tommy that the only thing I wanted to know was when the funeral would be, so I could make sure I didn't accidentally run into anyone there. He died on a Tuesday morning in March. Tommy called to tell me, and I felt relief. Pure, uncomplicated relief. The man who had spent the first 19 years of my life making me feel worthless was gone, and he could never hurt me or anyone else again. I didn't go to his funeral. I didn't send flowers. I didn't call Tommy to offer comfort. I went to lunch with my best friend and celebrated the fact that I was finally completely free of him. People think this story should end with some revelation about how he had a terrible childhood, or how he really loved me in his twisted way, or how I came to understand him better after he died. It doesn't. Sometimes people are just cruel, and understanding why they're cruel doesn't make them less cruel or make their victims obligated to forgive them. The truth is, cutting my father out of my life was one of the best decisions I ever made. Without his constant criticism and negativity, I flourished. I had a beautiful marriage to Linda that lasted 58 years until she passed 5 years ago. I raised 3 confident, successful children who knew they were loved unconditionally. I built a career in business where I spent 40 years encouraging young people, being the supportive mentor I never had. I never doubted my decision, not once in 38 years. My father was a toxic person who made everyone around him miserable. The fact that he shared my DNA didn't give him the right to destroy my self-worth or poison my happiness. The fact that he was my father didn't mean I owed him forgiveness, tolerance, or even basic civility. Some people are irredeemable. Some relationships are too damaged to salvage. Some family members are better off cut out of your life permanently. If you have a parent, sibling, or family member who consistently hurts you, who makes you feel small and worthless, who takes joy in your pain, you don't have to keep them in your life just because you share blood. You don't owe them forgiveness. You don't owe them reconciliation. You don't owe them anything. Blood doesn't make family. Love, respect, and kindness make family. My father never showed me any of those things, so he was never really family to me. He was just a cruel man I happened to share genetics with. The day he died was the day I was finally free, and I'm not sorry about that. Not one bit. If this story makes you uncomfortable, good. It should. We're not supposed to hate our parents. We're supposed to forgive and forget and keep families together at all costs. But sometimes the cost is too high. Sometimes protecting yourself means cutting out the people who hurt you, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. I'm 82 years old, and I've lived 38 years without my father's cruelty in my life. Those have been the best 38 years I've ever had. That's not a coincidence. If you're dealing with a toxic family member, someone who consistently makes your life worse, someone who refuses to change despite years of chances, maybe it's time to consider that you have a choice. You can keep subjecting yourself to their toxicity because they're family, or you can choose your own peace and happiness instead. I chose happiness. I chose peace. I chose myself, and I never regretted it for a single day. If this resonates with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And let me know in the comments, have you ever had to cut a toxic family member out of your life? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop loving people who don't deserve it.